You are listening to Radio Maria Canada, a Catholic voice wherever you are. We now present the program Via Rua, hosted by Ana Rivera.
Hi everyone, welcome to Via Rua, where we learn about God's breath, being tender secret that creates and upholds all life from conception to natural death. Today we have Ricardo with us. I met him through the 40 Days for Life Symposium, literally almost a year ago. It was such a blessing to meet him, and I even saw him at the March for Life in Washington this past year, and that was in February, I think it was. It's just so great to see somebody that is still so alive for the pro-life movement. And I think it's an example to anyone that's watching this, specifically from Canada, because we want to kind of uphold the values from a Canadian sort of scope, so we're able to change the laws in Canada. So Ricardo, can you tell us who you are? And what kind of prompted you to be interested in the pro-life movement, but also to persevere through it? Because I know you've been part of different movements. So like, what has kind of been there to keep you in that movement?
First off, Anna, thank you so much for having me. It's really good to see you again. It's been just about 6 months since January, right? So, or I don't even know how many months now, but yeah, it's so cool to reconnect with you. So you're asking me what kind of prompted me to get started in the pro-life movement, right?
Yeah, like how old were you? Like what inspired you? Why? You could have chosen like any other sort of thing to focus on.
So in the beginning, so basically, growing up, I mean, my family and I, we were always pro-life, right? I mean, I have my parents, thanks be to God, we're 4 siblings total. And as far as I know, we've all been very pro-life, like growing up, right? It wasn't until I was like 14 or 15 years old that my sister's friend invited her to join a pro-life group called the Binational Pro-Family Pro-Life League. Maybe for those listening, I mean, for context, I'm from El Paso, Texas originally, which is a border city with Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, right? And being on the border, the culture is very much binational, right? People come and go every day from one side of the border and the other, and whether it be for business, whether that be for leisure, but sadly, at times, that also includes for things such as abortion, right? So there was this group called the Binational Pro-Family Pro-Life League that would work on both sides of the border, tackling pro-life issues and supporting moms in need or connecting with different organizations. And my sister's friend invited her, and by extension invited us to join this organization, right? And little by little, I mean, we would host conferences where we would bring speakers like Trent Horn or Matt Fradd, Stephanie Gray, who's from Canada. And little by little, that just really reinforced in my heart, like this conviction, like of the importance of defending the preborn, right? But not just defending the preborn, but human dignity in its entire spectrum, right? From conception to natural death, right? And little by little, I mean, we would host different speakers. We would have different events in the community. And part of that was collaborating with the local Southwest Coalition for Life, right?
And how old were you?
I was around 14, 15 years old.
That's really young.
Yeah, and from there, I mean, we would just get involved, right? Eventually, when I would start college around 18 years old, a friend of mine invited me to a meeting at some point where a former employee of Planned Parenthood came and kind of gave us the lay of the land of how Planned Parenthood operates here in the United States. And another guy that I met there told me, you should start a pro-life club at the university, right? with Students for Life of America. And for me, I was like, wait, what is this? Right? I mean, because technically, in a way, like, I mean, I was doing my engineering degree. I was trying to focus in school. I was still very much in the pro life world and with my local campus ministry, Newman Center. But I wasn't sure what that looked like, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a little afraid because sometimes when you would see on social media these videos of like, these other pro-life clubs at universities and like people would like tear down their tables and spit at them and everything, I'm like, I I don't I don't know that I can do that. Sadly, I didn't start the club, but another girl that later became a good friend of mine, she started that club and she invited me to join the club, and I was one of the founding members of that club even then. And sure enough, I mean, right off the bat, I mean, we would host tabling events with displays and everything there at the university, and ever since, I've just been involved.
Yeah, and then there's any specific sort of event that you would say really kind of, made a difference on the campus, or maybe not just either or, right? Because sometimes you get positive attention, you get negative attention. So was there something that kind of, yeah, anything that happened that you thought was interesting and how people were responding?
It's a really good question, right? Let me think about that because there's actually maybe a few of them actually.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks be to God, right? Since living on a borderland community right next to Mexico, which is it's a Hispanic country at the end of the day. Uh, the values that are very much present in Mexican culture are, that of faith, of family, and to some degree they're very much pro-life, right? So being on the borderland, to some degree, thank God, people were generally speaking pro-life, which was great, right? Now, not everybody was pro-life, right? Or not everybody had, although they maybe like fostered, like, yeah, I mean, I love my family and everything. For some reason, people would make that disconnect between like, oh, family and being pro-life, right? So I remember one particular event that we had. We had this very cool display where, first off, we reached out to the community and asked them to just donate a bunch of cupcakes to us, right? And you're like, what do you mean cupcakes, right? We asked them to donate a bunch of cupcakes and they would drop them off at the Catholic Campus Ministry. And mind you, like, this was with the Students for Life Club. So like technically, although we maybe collaborated in that sense with the campus ministry, technically it was independent, right? But they helped us out in that sense. But why the cupcakes, right? So we're all typically very happy when it's our birthday, right? And we're all very excited and somebody will give us a cake or a gift or something like that, right? But sadly, due to the violence of abortion, right? I mean, there's thousands of babies every day that go without a birthday, right? So the activity that we had on campus that day was we were giving out cupcakes to the different students that were walking by, and they were like, "Oh, you guys are giving out cupcakes, great!" And they were like, "Yeah, we're just here to celebrate the fact that everyone deserves a birthday, right?" But due to the violence of abortion, thousands of babies don't get a birthday every day, and that's incredibly sad. And we want to bring awareness to that everybody deserves a birthday no matter what. And it was very interesting seeing people's like initial reaction of like, yeah, totally, bro. Like everyone deserves a birthday, right? But then when they would realize you would help them make that connection. Uh, you would help them make that connection between what is having a birthday and what it means to have life. Like it kind of helped people make that bridge, right? And that was one of the events that was very impactful, right? And even to the point where like I remember somebody walking by and they were like, I don't agree with you, but I'll take the cupcake, right? But
Yes.
I mean, you're in college students, free food, but that was one event in particular, right? Uh, Another one that I could name probably is with Dr. Anthony Levantino. He's a former abortionist, right, out of Las Cruces, New Mexico, or from the New Mexico area. And he came down to El Paso to give a talk on his experience, right, and his conversion, right? And how I remember that very particular. We collaborated with a local Protestant church, and sure enough, the church, there was a really good attendance. And even then, like, again, it brings an abstract issue like abortion to reality, right? Earlier, you asked me like why was it that this particular issue speaks to my heart very closely. Um, I'm reminded of the foreword of the document that Bishop Olmsted from Phoenix, Arizona, or I think Emeritus Bishop Olmsted had written called Catholics in the Public Square. And that document, the foreword was written by Archbishop Jose Gomez, right? And in that particular foreword, it mentions how there's many inequalities in the world, right? In the world, we deal with inequalities, related to Yes, I mean, to the preborn, to abortion. We relate matters of immigration with matters of the environment, workers' rights, um, and all these sort of issues, which are incredibly important and which we as Christians, as Catholics, we're called to be there to serve those in need, right? But the reality is that not all inequalities are equal, right? There's some that prevail in urgency without removing the importance of the others, but rather that prevail in urgency that we are called to serve immediately because they're objectively the most vulnerable, right? Namely the preborn and also those elderly that are, or not elderly even to this day, everyone who's in danger, who are in danger of euthanasia, right? So I remember like when I look back now, it's like that's something in particular that really speaks to me, right? Which is like I think compared to all these other issues that I just mentioned and others, if I see my immigrant brother in Christ, right, I can see him there on the border. I'm from the border community, right? Whenever in the news we would hear about these caravans and things of this nature coming towards the U.S. or towards North America, we were the first ones to feel it because we were there on the border, right? Like we would serve our migrant community, right? But one thing in particular is you're able to see your migrant brother and sister, right? You're able to touch them. You're able to help them, right? With matters of the environment, like whenever you see pollution, which ultimately affects the poor who live in the margins, right? You're able to see how that's directly affecting those brothers and sisters of ours in need. But the issue of abortion is very unique, right? Because in a way, it's somewhat abstract, right? Not literally, but in the sense like to people, because you can't see the baby, right? Like there is an emotional detachment, right? Where you're not able to really capture that the fact that it is a child who's suffering, right? Unless you have the ultrasound or you have imagery that shows that the preborn child in the womb is in fact real. And the interesting thing there, it's like that's the reason that it's this issue in particular. I focus on it so much because like ultimately, like if there's a saying in Spanish, right? Ojos que no ven, corazón que no siente, right? Eyes that don't see, heart that doesn't feel, right? And in a way, like the issue of abortion has become so perhaps removed from what we can actually see and sense. That baby we cannot really see and sense it in the sense that of these other issues that there's that disconnect. So it's maybe why it speaks so closely to my heart that like I want to help bridge that one side of here's a child, here's the most vulnerable in our society, here's a mom in need, here's a family who is struggling, like, you know, in one way to raise this child. Um, and here's this other reality of what abortion does to that child, right? Which ends their life, hurts the mom, hurts the dad, hurts the community.
Amen. I think even for myself sometimes, even just being active and being able to go back to the why, I think even for us as people that are active in the movement, we kind of also sometimes even have that disconnect because you're not gonna know um, who's technically quote unquote saved, or you're not gonna know which mom is gonna change their mind, which I think is very humbling. But I think because we're like you said, we want to see the result. We want to touch, like we want to be there for this person. And I could even say, then this is why other movements or other sort of missions, specifically Catholic missions, gain so much more a crowd, right? And and then people are there to kind of help them. And this is why Via Rua exists in Canada in a way, because we want to kind of ignite that fire in people's hearts to not just make it abstract. And I think you beautifully just explained that. And you said so now you were part of Students for Life. Can you, though, kind of going back to, I forget what the group was, but like the one in the border, how did it work? What specifically did you guys do? Like, how did you know, like, if some, like, did you guys talk to the mothers, or like, how do you know they were pregnant? Like, how did that happen?
So a unique thing about that organization, the Binational Pro Family Pro Life League, was the fact that we collaborated with the other local pro-life organizations, right? And not only that, but like us in like as an organization, I mean, us as members, some of us would go on the sidewalk, but typically it would be collaborating with like 40, either the 40 Days for Life campaign or the binational, or not the Binational League, the Southwest Coalition for Life, or even some of us in that organization. I mean, I know some of my colleagues would work with the local pregnancy resource center, and in that way they were able to kind of be part of that pipeline, right? Where if maybe some of them were on the sidewalk, right? And maybe some of them would work over here in the pregnancy center, right? And there would kind of be like that handshake in the way of like, we're on the sidewalk in the front lines and then you're over here in the service aspect, right? But the unique thing about this organization too was like it tackled like the cultural aspect of things, right? So by hosting these speakers and these conferences, right, we would bring greater awareness to the different issues
Mm.
related to life, right, and to family, right. So in a way, that's what I love about our organization because it kind of tackled that trifecta, right? On the one hand, you have the cultural aspect of the way that the culture of death, the anti-family culture, and all these things that attack the family, right, the human family, and life for that matter. It would tackle that by informing the local Catholic community, and for that matter, everyone, right, through these conferences. But not only that, I mean, by collaborating with 40 Days for Life, with the Southwest Coalition for Life, and also with the local Pregnancy Resource Center, we were able to kind of hit those three spots of like we try to change the culture where they're praying on the sidewalk, and some of us would collaborate there with that Pregnancy Resource Center. So there's that pipeline there. That's kind of in a way the way that we would support that.
Yeah, so building awareness. And then, so is that how you got introduced into 40 Days for Life? Or like, how did that happen?
That's a really good question. I'm like, I think one way, and it's so hard because like looking back now, I'm like, I can't pinpoint an exact moment, but I would remember maybe like one way or another just being on the sidewalk maybe at some point with this Southwest Coalition for Life, now called Guiding Star El Paso. They merged with the local Pregnancy Resource Center, and the way that I got with 40 Days for Life was that way. I mean, like we would hear about these campaigns that would happen in Lent, that would happen in the fall, and it was always the thing that you kind of heard of. Like, there's people praying outside Planned Parenthood. Not only that, I mean, over there in El Paso, the unique thing about it is that so between Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, and El Paso, Texas, I mean, you just cross the bridge, and you basically, to put it in an easier way, you cross the street, you're in Mexico, you cross back, you're in the US, and New Mexico is like
That's
55 minutes
crazy.
north. You know what I mean?
That's
And the
so
thing,
different.
so it's
Wait,
like,
question. This is just like a side note question. Can you walk? Like
yeah,
from both?
yeah. We've done that like multiple times. I had classmates that would go from one side to the border every day, both at the university and in middle school and high school. Like it was something unique, which again is something very specific to that organization and to the kind of like the pro-life issue that would happen, right? It's like the way that I would see it is like if I was in Montana and you have Canada, right, like on the border, right? That's kind of the way that I would see it, right? I mean, I don't know, but the thing about that, like, again, putting it in context, what you had asked me about 40 Days for Life, right? It was a very unique situation because you had Mexico right here. The bridge from downtown Mexico goes into downtown El Paso, right? So then you had people who would come over here to have abortions into the United States, right? To my knowledge. So it was interesting because not only did we have a Planned Parenthood, but we also had private, like, abortion facilities, right? So a particular physician would own their own facility, but not only that, because like I said, the way El Paso, Texas, on the westmost tip of Texas, it's less than an hour away from New Mexico, and New Mexico is incredibly pro-abortion. So, like, you would also have abortion facilities on the other side of the state. So you would have people praying at each abortion facility, right? So the thing, like, the way that I ended up hearing about it is like, I think my mom would probably tell me, "Hey, we're gonna go pray outside the abortion facility," and I'm like, "Great, right?" Uh,
Moms.
and man, honestly, if by God's grace I manage to get to heaven, like, it'll be because of my mom.
Amen.
I mean, not me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But when that's kind of the way that I got involved, and eventually when I got to college, right? Strategically, I would say like abortion facilities are near college campuses, right? Because I think a very vulnerable demographic for abortion facilities would be ages 18 through 24, which are primarily like college aged women, right? So, like walking distance from like maybe like 6 blocks from my university, you had that private abortion facility that was owned by like a doctor. And not only that, I mean, like I said, walking distance, right? So eventually, like collaborating with the local Pregnancy Resource Center, collaborating with the 40 Days for Life campaign, that's how I just started getting involved. Like,
So, yeah, so then how many, since we're talking about the private abortion clinics and we're talking about Planned Parenthood clinics, where are they like within walking distance or like how many are in this sort of like region you're talking about? Do you know the number?
so for instance, most of these facilities, at the time, because praise God, 2 of them have closed down.
Hey,
Uh, and actually, that doctor's facility, I think, yeah, it closed down like during the middle of the pandemic. Sadly, it had been in the borderland community for like 36 years. So God have mercy, right? And pray for him, Dr. Franz Dr. Pray for his conversion. Uh, I think
Doctor, can you just repeat his name? Doctor
Franz Dr.
France Dr.
Yeah, so Franz, that's his first name, and then Thiard is his last name.
Dr.
Yeah, pray for him, please. And not only that, I mean, like his facility closed, and then there was another Planned Parenthood that stood strong for a while, but that one closed down too. Now, sadly, they just recently reopened one, not not too far from there, but the landscape is currently a little different now with the fall of Roe versus Wade and with how pro-life Texas is. But but the way that it used to be was that we had on the El Paso side, right, on the Texas side, not on the New Mexico side, we had those 2 abortion facilities, and sadly, like I said, less than an hour away in New Mexico, you had, I think, a few. For sure, you had another one, another private one, and currently today, I tell you, like, we can go really long into this. Essentially, just to give you an idea of how special New Mexico is for abortion, right? So praise God, Roe versus Wade was overturned, right? On the day of the feast, on the solemnity of the Sacred Heart, right? Like,
How
if I
many
used
years?
to,
How many years would that be?
I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago
I
already.
think it's gonna be 4.
That is crazy, isn't it? I remember that day. It was crazy, but essentially, we all remember Roe versus Wade, right? Obviously, 1973 in January. We remember Casey versus Planned Parenthood, 1993, and then of course we have a case Dobbs versus Jackson, right? Which ultimately led to the fall of Roe versus Wade. But one unique thing about that Supreme Court case here in the United States is Dobbs versus Jackson. In Jackson, you had in Mississippi, you had the last abortion facility in the state called the Pink House, because I think it was painted pink, right? So when the case goes through and Roe versus Wade falls, they're out of business, right? So what do? They pack their bags and they go where?
New
To
Mexico.
Las Cruces, New Mexico, an hour away from El Paso. You see what I mean? And it's crazy because, like, right now, New Mexico is a key battleground for the abortion battle in the United States. Simply put, I think right now I don't know if they're still doing like a $10 million abortion center, something crazy like that. In New Mexico, right now there's a lot of battle against the creation of that abortion center, simply because of the fact that, like, I'm just thinking, like I tell you, being on the border, you'll have people driving from Juarez all the way to New Mexico to have abortions. You'll have people from Texas driving to New Mexico for abortions, right? So it is, even though one might say, because one other thing that, praise God, happened in Texas, here we have the heartbeat bill, right, which helped, I'm sure, save countless of babies. But people will probably still drive from Houston, from I don't know where, do that incredibly long drive all the way to New Mexico to have an abortion, right? So it's like, now you had asked me originally, like, what does the landscape look like? It used to be that a little different. Now it's a lot more intense because, I mean, you're probably going to have people investing in New Mexico for abortion because, again, there's money in that, sadly, which is, blood money, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because I think some people don't really know how abortion can be a business.
That is such, I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? So at the end of the day, right, it's like Planned Parenthood, abortion facilities, they're businesses, right? Just like everything else, they're businesses, right? And that particular case, like, you have to pay for abortions, right? And in some cases, perhaps through your medical insurance, part of it might be paid, right? But at the end of the day, it's a circular business, right? If I go to a local Planned Parenthood and they give me contraception, right? The contraception will eventually fail, right? Which will eventually lead me back to them to have an abortion, right? And eventually I'll have to pay for that abortion. And then from there, they'll give me contraception and they'll keep me back there, right?
And then the contraception, the patients that go inside a Planned Parenthood, do they have to pay for it?
It's possible that it's free. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I don't know. Like, it might vary per state.
But, like, that's like like the hook. Like you get them
Right.
on
Exactly. It's
birth
like
control or contraceptive, whatever it is. Maybe even yeah, there's so many different ones like the patch, the injection.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
guess maybe to take it a step back, right? It's like they might give you birth control, right? You'll go there, you receive birth control. Sometimes they'll also reel you in with the hook will also be like STD, STI testing. There will be different things. Because again, like if you're living a promiscuous lifestyle, right? And again, I want to make it clear, like not everybody that seeks an abortion lives that lifestyle. There's many reasons as to why somebody seeks an abortion, right? And I want to make it clear, like we do not come from a position of hate. We do not come up from a position of judgment. It's always from a position of mercy, right? And a position of love. But with that also comes the truth of how these businesses work, right? So ultimately, it's like they'll give you if they give you birth control, if they give you contraception, if they offer you an STD or an STI test, because perhaps you're living a promiscuous lifestyle, and I want to say perhaps,
Mm.
eventually you'll keep going to them, right, as a customer, right, because it's money at the end of the day. And then eventually, when that fails, they also provide you with an abortion, right? So then eventually you pay for the abortion and then you come back for the things you had come for originally, and it keeps going.
That's interesting. Like this just came to me, but this sort of like birth control mindset, right? Even just generally speaking, for our whole society, Canada, whoever it is, it's not even. It's not if it's gonna happen. It's when it's gonna happen. When are these parents? Because right, it takes two to tango. It's not just the mom. If you like, I
Exactly.
don't want to focus only on the mom, but when is this person gonna become pregnant? When is this woman gonna become pregnant? And I
Right.
think we kind of have built this sort of mindset where, oh, we're good, because there's like, oh, are you having safe intercourse? Are you doing it safely? And then the repercussions are there. I want to go back. You were talking about the 10 million facility, like they're trying to build this 10 million facility. My question would be, since there's such a huge movement right now in America for the abortion pill, why do they have to build an in-prison facility?
Well, that's a really good question, right? I think one thing to consider is the fact that the chemical abortion I've heard is like, to my knowledge, is the primary method of abortion today, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing in particular is that the chemical abortion, right, which consists of the two pill cocktail of mifepristone and misoprostol, right? Which perhaps in some places you could even mail and everything, which is incredibly dangerous because you don't even know how far along you might be. And let's say because again, like there's a range of weeks in which you can actually take the pill, right? The
Mm-hmm.
pills for that matter. Like you can't just take it when you're 30 weeks pregnant, right? That's incredibly dangerous. But besides the point, it's like your question is like, why do we need that $10 million? Or why would they say that they need that $10 million abortion center? Because at the end of the day, when you need more advanced when you're later in pregnancy and you need a surgical abortion, what ends up happening is like you do need to go to a place to have this surgical abortion, right? Now, you have to think about the fact that if New Mexico is becoming hypothetically like the abortion capital, right? You need to have a
For the
place where
U.S.
um let's say that it's for the US, maybe even for the world, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that there you have to invest in that kind of infrastructure for that, right? So that's part of the reason why you would need that, right? Why they would say they would need it, right? Because ultimately, people can go there for that kind of procedure.
Yeah. Interesting. I do know this is cool enough because there was the March for Life here in Canada in
Hmm.
May, and there was a little youth conference after it, um, and one of the speakers was saying that the illegal business that's happening with these sort of pills, right? It's literally somebody from the Philippines mailing the medication hidden in like fabric of clothing, and then the woman is like, where's this pill? Like, I don't see it. They're messaging back and forth to like this person, who knows who they are, and then they're having all these things happening at home, right? They're having all these, seeing the
Complications.
the body parts of the child at home, which is like, yeah, it's already shocking enough that we're
Yeah,
getting
it's
rid of
really
the
bad.
babies in a surgery, and now yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's why it's just very interesting that there is still a facility. Um, yeah.
I mean, and mind you, one thing that um, that's just in New Mexico, right? I'm sure there's still places like there's still like brick and mortar establishments, of course. Even here, like in Dallas, there's sadly 10 Planned Parenthoods in the Dallas Fort Worth area, right? There may not be providing abortions as they used to before the Heartbeat Bill and Roe versus Wade, but ultimately, if those places become referral centers for other states, there's still a threat, right? Even in pro-life Texas, as I like to say it, right?
Yeah. And so then right now, in this sort of like pro-life mission, you became part of 40 Days for Life, and how long has that been?
So I've been involved with 40 Days for Life as a leader locally here in the Dallas Fort Worth region for about a year now, actually. And part of our mission here is to tackle these 10 Planned Parenthoods that we have in the region, right? One That's kind of how I got involved. I mean, ultimately, as you grow as you get deeper into the pro life movement, you make a lot of friends. And eventually, when I moved here to the city, the friend of mine that was running that here, we got in contact, and eventually, like we started serving here in the community, and that's how kind of how I ended up here.
Was it after the symposium?
Actually, no, it was beforehand,
It
before
was
the
beforehand.
symposium.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I had never been, although I had been around in the pro life movement for a while, I had never been to a 40 Days for Life symposium before. I had never, I mean, I've been to the Students for Life National Leaders Collective a handful of times. We've been to the National Pro Life Summit as well, and the March for Life, but I had never been to the 40 Days for Life community, right? But one thing unique that I very much love, right? And this is something that I learned from one of my personal heroes in the pro life movement, Mark Cavalier. He's a role model. I love him so much. Uh,
Who's Mark Cavalier?
so Mark Cavalier, he used to lead the Southwest Coalition for Life, and again now, which is now the Guiding Star, El Paso, the Pregnancy Center. Essentially, he led that initial movement there in the El Paso, Las Cruces community, and essentially through a lot of effort and everything, I think in one point they were able to close 3 abortion facilities in 3 years. Like there was a lot of effort, it was a lot of focus, and
What?
yeah, it's fantastic. God is so good, I tell you. They were able to later on. I mean, like they helped grow this place called Guiding Star, which is an amazing pregnancy resource center, where they're able to offer support for the moms in need with ultrasounds, with parenting classes, with all these sorts of things, right? And you can actually find them online if you look up Guiding Star El Paso. And essentially, like he was part of that leadership team, and sure enough, like I learned a lot from him in that sense. And but why Mark Cavalier, right? I lost my train of thought. I'll have to be honest. You had asked me something before that.
I just said who is he, and then through that,
Oh, 40 Days for Life,
40
right?
Days for Life, yes.
So one thing that I've learned, which I learned from him too, is that so organizations like Students for Life of America, other Live Action, right? Other organizations such as these, like they're all wonderful and they serve and fulfill their mission, right? Either would be to empower students on college campuses around the country, to bring awareness to the issue of abortion and be that support for pregnant and parenting students, or to bring awareness around the issue of abortion, right, which is something great that Live Action does, among other things. Um, One thing that we have to recognize is that abortions don't take place in city halls. Abortions don't take place in the Capitol. Abortions don't take place in the White House, right? At the end of the day, abortions take place at abortion facilities, right? So that's the important, like that, and that's something that I learned with 40 Days for Life and through Mark Cavalier at the time, and I now see it in 40 Days for Life that really it's us being on the sidewalk that makes the difference. It's us being out there that even by being that visual, peaceful, prayerful presence on the sidewalk that changes hearts and minds. I mean, there's that crazy statistic of how so a large percentage of the women who are going in for an abortion that see somebody praying outside on their knees, like it drops dramatically simply because there was somebody out there. And I remember hearing about this one very moving case, that there was this one case of this one woman who she was driving to a Planned Parenthood, I think in El Paso, Las Cruces. She was driving in, and because she had her appointment for an abortion, but she was asking God for a sign, like, you know what, should I do this? Should I not do this? Right? Uh, and they saw somebody out there on the sidewalk, and she was like, you know what? Okay, this is a sign. I'm not gonna do it. However, She went back for a second time, right? I don't know if she had rescheduled her appointment. She's like, you know what? We're going to go through with this abortion. Like we're just going to go for it. And she, again, as she's driving in, if I remember well, she sees somebody on the sidewalk again. And she says, you know what? I'm not going to do this abortion. But then a third time it happened, she tripled down and she said, I'm going to go through with the abortion, right? She was going to Planned Parenthood, but sadly this time she didn't see anybody on her knees. She didn't see anybody there praying, and she went through with the abortion. And again, that it goes to show again, like the importance of just 1 hour a week. That's all that we ask for, right? We don't ask. I mean, if you're able to give more of your time, if the Lord calls you to that,
Praise
please
the
do,
Lord.
right? Praise the Lord, right? But
Yeah.
really, how hard is 1 hour of your time a week, right? Yes, you may have to work. Yes, we have children. Yes, we have responsibilities, and those come first, right? Like we have our obligations, right? In
Your
our state of
vocation.
life, you have your vocation, yeah, and in your current state of life, you have your obligations. You should be faithful to them. But in that too is serving the most vulnerable, right? And it's just 1 hour that we ask for, right? And it can be any day of the week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And believe me, I can tell you that makes a difference. So the thing in particular with the 40 Days for Life, I think you had asked me about how I got involved in everything, and you had asked me about the symposium. It's like, sure enough, I mean, like, one thing that I've learned over time is that although these other organizations that I've been able to serve in, uh, serve a particular focus, and one was very much openly Catholic, the other one was technically non-religious, but a lot of its members were Catholic or Christian. One unique thing that we see very clearly with 40 Days for Life is the faith, right? And we often forget at times that this is this is really in great part a spiritual battle, right? I mean, and I think sometimes we divorce the fact that we can get too stuck into the politics, as we should be involved in politics. We should promote policy that helps defend the most vulnerable, the preborn and their moms and their parents. And we should be out there. But at the end of the day, this is a spiritual battle, right? We don't fight against flesh, right? We fight against demons. We fight against evil one, right? And I think that's one thing that I love about 40 Days for Life, that it's very much a matter of, like, you see it in the flesh there, right? I mean, you just reminded me of one story that comes to mind. Back in 2021, I was in Washington, D.C. with Students for Life. We were there for a conference, and we went to pray outside the Planned Parenthood there in Washington, D.C. There was people on the sidewalk. I mean, there was a lot of people there. That was thinking one of the few times that I had seen escorts, right? Like people from the abortion facility that had escorts, if I remember well. And in one instance, I remember, again, just to give you an idea of like the spiritual battle, right? We were all there praying the rosary. We were all there being that peaceful, prayerful presence. And I remember very clearly, like, I have to say, again, because it's a business, there's money. This is a beautiful establishment. It's a beautiful Planned Parenthood, right? 2 stories. It's great. Of course, like, it looks great on the outside, but I'm sure there's horrible things happening inside, right? And what happens is that it's the building, it's a narrow street, and then there's like another set of buildings on the other side. I see this car pull over. This young African American man comes out with his girlfriend. I'm assuming it was his girlfriend. And right away, he quickly, like, runs with her into the abortion facility, right? So, and we're like again, like, when you're on the sidewalk, in this case, I was just praying, but you probably had people there like trying to give her resources, trying to change your mind, right? But sadly, I mean, like, she went in and he went in, right? Shortly out, again, just to give you an idea of the spiritual warfare, right? I mean, we were out there praying outside, and this guy comes out back at us and starts cussing at us and yelling at us. And we're like, okay, I mean, we can see why he's mad and everything, right? Then he goes back inside to the abortion facility. He comes back out and seems to threaten us with a gun. And he didn't pull out a gun in our face, but he kind of put it under his shirt and pretended to have a gun. And we objectively don't know if he had a gun or not. And sometimes the danger is that there's kids out there praying with us as well. Like, there's elderly people as well. But you feel very clearly the spiritual warfare of, like, the opposition from the devil, right? And that's the reason, like, I mean, like, you see it very clearly clashing with. But that's why one unique thing about 40 Days for Life, it's not just prayer. It's prayer and fasting. right? Because again, we know from scripture, and that's always the hardest part, but like we know from scripture like that some demons can only be driven out through prayer and fasting, right? And that's one of the things that it's like that you see very clearly there, right? It's like you see what you're fighting, right? And in a way it's a confirmation, right? It's a confirmation of the fact that you're heading in the right direction, right? If it were easy, then you would have no opposition, right? But we see very clearly, I mean, like people get mad at you, people will assault you, people will threaten you with a gun, like you never know what you'll see, but yeah,
It's those God winks. You're making the
exactly.
evil one upset. That's something I've heard here from somebody that does 40 days for life. They're just God winks. Just see them as God winks. Um, so if anybody that's listening, because we have different campaigns here in Canada. Praise be to God for that. If they're on the fence, but they're still thinking about joining, still thinking about being out there, or even like they know they've come like one time, but they still seem to struggle with making it a commitment, like in their heart, in their deep in their heart, they really want to have that courage. You know what I mean? Like they really want to have this sort of admirable courage that other people have, because it seems that they're very committed to the mission. They go to 40 days. What would you tell a person like that? Like there's a lot of fear surrounding going out into public and praying. And mind you, I guess I could also add this here, sort of in a Canadian sort of perspective, there is sort of this mentality that only a few people go, which is true. I know, thanks be to God, here in Hamilton, like it has grown, but there is certain hours during the day where, yeah, there's like one single person because they have the courage to do so, but it's very, or like from what I've seen, kind of like the American sort of 40 days for life, there seems to be sort of like a momentum where they can fill hours each person, but here it's mostly very black and white. Like either there's like a big group or there's like nobody. Anywho, I think I extended myself, but do you have any advice for that?
What I would say is this, right? If there's already the desire in your heart to serve in this particular way, right?
Mm.
Perhaps in your heart you already see, you recognize, and to whoever is listening, right? Maybe you think in your head like, I know abortion is wrong, I know babies are dying, I know that moms are hurting, dads are losing fatherhood, like I know it's scary, right? And I think in great part the scary part is, what are others going to say,
Mm.
right? What are others going to say when I'm on the sidewalk, right? Like for all I know, guys, like, I'm an engineer. It could be that somebody sees me on the street for my job and they go and tell on me, hey, this guy's crazy. You never know. They could probably fight, which I'm not crazy, but we're not crazy. The pro-life people are so nice. But you should come be friends with us. But essentially it could be that I get fired for being pro-life, right? It could be that, like different things like could happen that have consequences in our lives, right? And I'm not trying to minimize that in any way. I know that it is scary, right? But at the same time, it's like perhaps it was for such a time as this that we were given this opportunity, right? I think that's in Esther, right? In the book of Esther, right? We think of the Queen Esther, right, who was queen. And you had Mordecai who went and asked for help, right? And and Mordecai tells her like, look, if you don't come and help us, help will come from another place, but you will die, right? I mean, like, and I mean, and I'm like, okay, Mordecai, you have to calm down, bro. But what is one thing in particular that he tells her? It's like, who knows? Perhaps it was for such a time as this that you were given royalty, and who knows? I'll say the same to you and to me, to myself as well, right? To keep myself accountable, right? It's like
Mm.
perhaps it was for such a time as this that we were given the opportunity to speak up, right? Perhaps it was for such a time as this that we were given the opportunity to be just there for 1 hour praying. And I get it. It's scary, but I will tell you, take courage. Like you're not alone. And even if you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna go on my own, bring a friend. Like really, like bring a friend. And I know it can be hard if you're already struggling to convince yourself to go. It could probably even harder to convince a friend, but look, it's a lot easier when you're there with a friend, right? Invite your
Amen.
friend. It's a lot easier, believe me, I know. But that's what I would tell you. Like, be not afraid, right? you're doing the right thing. You're not doing anything wrong, right?
Mm.
And not only that, I mean, like, even then it might be scary. Like, am I breaking the law? Am I doing different things? Like, look, follow the guidelines that you can find on 40daysforlife.com. And you'll be able to find .com and find more information. Because I mean, I know here in the U.S., we very clearly have the freedom of speech, right? And we can be in public areas and everything. I'll be completely honest. Like, I'm not 100% familiar with the situation in Canada, right? But to the degree that you're able to speak publicly and be a peaceful and prayerful presence, you have that opportunity. So in a nutshell, be not afraid. Take courage. And this is the opportunity of a lifetime, right? How imagine that just by being there on the sidewalk, you're able to save a life. Man, like it's just like it's crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
It is
yeah,
crazy. Yeah. I really, I don't think I've heard this before. To have the opportunity to to be given this invitation, because I think we see it as a downer. We see it as doom and gloom, and we're like, oh, I got invited to 40 days. I'm just gonna my schedule. It's really busy. It's really, and even for myself, like being able to have this opportunity, be part of it, learn how to pray. I think that's also been sort of like my own personal gain or its growth. And not to make it about myself, but is this sort of connection that you build a higher faith um, in God and like what He can do. Like it's not all about us at the end of the day. It's like how can we surrender more of what goes on even in our daily lives, not just even talking about these parents that are in unexpected pregnancy. They don't know what to do, they're scared, they're afraid. The evil one is like nudging them to like kill their child, and it's like where's the hope? And it's like you are the hope, and somebody's kind of giving you this little gift, and then you're like, okay, this is not the gift I expected. And it's
yeah.
like, what do I do with this? But it's such a, I feel like that can definitely move somebody's heart to know that, hey, you were built for such a time as this. um, and if not you, who else? And then even that person, like you were saying, can ignite another heart, can ignite that sort of movement for this other person to come.
I mean, if I could add one thing,
Yes.
Anna, what I'm thinking is 1/3 to 1/4 of my generation is gone because of abortion, right?
Mm.
Like that to me, like it's
I
so
can't even
mind
imagine, to
boggling.
be honest. I'm
I
like,
mean, you know what helps me imagine it? There was like 63 people in my high school graduating class. Let's say 60. 1/3 of those people are gone. 20 people who I know by name. You know what I mean? Like 20 people who my life would be different without them. People that I grew up with my whole life that I still know some to this day. You see, like when I think about the fact that, because one might say, oh, 20 million people. No, these are 20 people that I grew up with. You know what I mean? Like 15 to 20
yeah, it
people.
hits different.
It hits different when I think about it that way. And I think again, it's like that little by little, like one day, again, like we are all called to serve in different ways, right? It could be that maybe you're serving, the cause for life in a different aspect, right? It could be that you're defending, the rights of the elderly. It could be that you're defending the dignity of migrants. Please do that. Please continue doing that, right? I mean, like we're not like everybody's called in different ways, right? But everybody's called to serve. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing to remember, right? And I just really encourage again, like to the listeners and those watching at home, like I really encourage, like, just try 1 hour. You know what I mean? Like, and you maybe will be out there and be like, nothing happened. It's like, you don't know that. Like, because I mean, odds are it's gonna seem like I was just there. I prayed a rosary and that was it. I'm like, then be
you
happy with
did
the fact
you did your job.
exactly like you fulfilled your obligation in a way. You know what I mean? To serve in a way. And it's all that we ask for, like 1 hour, right? I mean, for me, for myself, like I can tell you, like I'm tired all the time.
Mm.
I'm working from 7 to 5. I'm doing my masters. I'm doing different things. I'm tired all the time. Pray for me. but uh but uh but even then, like it would help me so much, like going with my classmates from the university. I will tell them with the local pro-life club there for my masters right now. It's like, guys, let's go pray. And here's the thing, guys, like I'll be honest with you, like, yeah, there are days where I'm just so tired and because of the duties of my state of life that I don't go. And God knows that, right? Like, I'm doing everything that I possibly can, right? But I will tell you, like, as part of this pro life club, even though I work full time, I'm part of the pro life club at the university that I go to, University of Dallas. It's like we're in a group chat, and I'm telling the Lord, like, it's like 9 p.m. Friday night because we usually go on Saturdays. It's 9 p.m. Friday night. I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I'm like, look, Lord, you know how tired I am, and you know that if I don't rest, I'm gonna get sick, right? But Lord, if one of these students, if one of them puts on the chat that they want to go, I'll wake up, right? Early, because we would go early in the morning and we would go. And I don't say that because I think I'm a hero or anything, no, but because I think of like the fact that, like, okay, one student says, hey, I want to go tomorrow to pray. I'm like, okay, we're waking up and we're making the sacrifice and we're going. Because again, it's like the fact that somebody feels that movement of the Holy Spirit, that courage of like, you know what, I want to give it a shot. Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, and okay,
Yeah.
like we're going, then we're going together. That way you don't go alone. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like, and it's a small sacrifice, sure, but again, I can't help but think of all the people that will see us there with those signs, and be like, hey, like, this is still an issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, like, this is still something that's going on. Because here in Texas, like, I think we take the fact that we're pro-life for granted now
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And the fact that people will still see us out there with those signs and be like, okay, this is still an issue. This is still something to worry about. But it all happens with, again, just doing that tiny sacrifice of 1 hour. And I guarantee you, God will not be outdone in generosity, right? God will not be outdone in generosity. If you give God that 1 hour, I guarantee you, with full knowledge, like with full like clarity in my heart, God will repay you so much more.
Abundantly. Is there something? Well, I guess you probably, but maybe more specifically, but like, is there something that? Oh, wait. Yes, I have another question. But is there something that 40 Days for Life has taught you in your life and like your day-to-day life?
Say it again, please.
Is there something that 40 Days for Life has taught you, or even just the pro-life movement in general, like that you made it part of your own day-to-day life?
Hmm. It's a really good question, man. You're asking me questions that I need to answer in like 30 seconds, that I'm like, I don't know. I'll start with 40 Days for Life. Something that 40 Days for Life has taught me ever since I was younger, is perseverance. I kid you not, guys. It is. I mean, when I think of those like Mark Cavalier and the people who have,
Mm.
I mean, the shoulders of giants that I've been on, that I've learned
Mm-hmm.
so much from, and heck, like even like the older people in the pro life movement, right, who have been there at least in the United States since 1973, since the day that since the year after Roe versus Wade was overturned, that I've done the March for Life in DC, that I've probably done March for Life in their states, and from then until now, like, you got, it's perseverance, right? It really is. And I can't help but think, for instance, Roe versus Wade comes in 1973, and this, and again with 40 Days for Life, right? 1973. In 1993, there was a huge chance to overturn Roe versus Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood, and it was a 4-5 decision.
Mm.
Again, like, imagine all the work of those like 20 years, and then we're back, not in square one, but we're not advancing as much, right? Add another 20, 30 years, right? 40 years, like, we're again in the Supreme Court, right? And again, like, this
I
time,
didn't
like,
know that.
right,
I didn't know
again,
it was almost overturned by one vote.
it's like, and not only that, I mean, like, and that added a whole other bucket of issues with being pro-life, right? But not only that, Anna, like, finally when Roe versus Wade gets overturned, it's like, look how many years it took, 49, 50 years. You know what I mean? Like, uh so like when you think about it, like how much perseverance, how much effort, time and time again, with every time that you wanted to pass a pro-life bill and that it wouldn't go through, and that this other thing would happen and it wouldn't go through, and then the persecution, and then the name calling, and then people spitting at you, you trying continuously, time and time and time again. Something
Mm.
that's taught me is perseverance, and in a particular way with 40 Days for Life, because it's all connected, is being on the sidewalk when it rains, when it snows, when it's 100 degrees outside, like Fahrenheit, like it's just so disheartening, quite frankly, because like you're out there and you're like, am I making a freaking difference? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. What's the
but the
point?
fact is, exactly, what's the point, right? Well, you are making the difference. You are closing abortion facilities. You're praying for the conversion of those that work inside. Heck, it's like the easiest way in a way to do penance, because like you don't want to be out there, right? And you're already out there. You can offer it up for the person that's inside. You know what I mean? Like
Sanctification.
it's
Yeah.
sanctification, right? So one is perseverance. The other thing that has taught me in my life, right? And after the fall of Roe versus Wade, like it made me realize that anything is possible. Like because
Mm.
really, like I remember I was in DC the year after Roe versus Wade was overturned, and we had the first ever with Students for Life of America. We had the first ever Celebrate Life event. We had like a gala and everything there in DC, and something beautiful. I want to cry just remembering like something beautiful that they had was uh, they were they were doing some what I would call like honorable mentions, right? But more than anything, like in memory of all of those who fought for the end of abortion in the United States, for the fall of Roe versus Wade, who didn't get to see the fall of Roe versus Wade. You know what I mean? Like the people who for decades pushed and pushed the movement forward so that they all until the end of their lives, but who didn't get to see that, right? I think one of them was Dr. Bernard Nathanson, right? Who I think was the founder of one of the largest pro-abortion organizations in the U.S., who later had a conversion. I mean, like he was one of those physicians who, although he was very pro-abortion, he later had a conversion, fought for the cause for life, but didn't get to see the fall of Roe versus Wade, right? I mean, again, perseverance, right? I mean, like these are people who were fighting for the cause, knowing that maybe they would probably not see the fall of Roe versus Wade, but Roe versus Wade finally fell, right? Which again, that's perseverance, right? And another thing that I guess that I've kind of carried into my own life through 40 Days for Life and the pro-life movement as a whole is mercy.
Mm.
Mercy. Like really, like I can't help but think of like all of those moms, all of those babies who, the babies who have died because of abortion, the moms who to this day carry the wound of abortion, right? And again, there may be like I said in the beginning, there are varied reasons why a woman seeks an abortion, right? Maybe they did suffer sexual assault. Maybe they were abused, right? Maybe out of convenience, right? Realistically, I've heard of that. Maybe out of convenience, maybe they didn't want to have this child, right? And yes, sadly, often maybe they still go through the abortion, right? But at the end of the day, like I'm not there to judge them. I'm not there to condemn them. I'm not there to attack them. At the end of the, because realistically, what would that win? Nothing, right? But mercy, again, I say mercy because again, like I think of the divine mercy, right? How no matter, like the greater the sin, the greater the mercy, right? That's not to
Mm.
say you should sin greatly, right? But I have to make that clear. But how
Well.
merciful, well, no, I mean you shouldn't sin greatly, right? But in the case that you commit such a grave sin like how great is
Mm.
our God? How merciful is He that His arms are wide open from the moment that you commit the sin, right? And it's taught me in my life at work with my family. I'm still learning to be with myself, but to be merciful, right? Because we all can fall, and we can all fall in some spectacular ways. But but
Spectacular.
but uh, but even then, like that's what I mean. Like I think like God is so merciful with me. Like who am
Mm.
I to not be merciful with others? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
He has forgiven my sins in confession. I should go to confession. He has forgiven my sins in confession. Who am I to not be merciful to others? Right? Those are the two things, perseverance and mercy, among many other things, right?
Oh
But
yeah.
perseverance
Oh
and
yeah.
mercy.
Yeah. I was just gonna point out on the sin. Yeah, like we're free to sin gravely. Doesn't mean we should, but I think it's like remembering, specifically, kind of like I think even showing mercy towards ourselves, because yeah, if we're not able to show mercy to ourselves, which goes so deep into our heart, how can we show mercy to this other person? Um, and I think that's something that I've also learned from people that have sinned greatly, like just lots of moral sin. Like there, I feel specifically, I'm thinking of Saint Augustine or people like that. They show so much mercy, just the way they write, the way they speak, and as somebody that, we become in this sort of high horse pride, oh, like, look at them, look at me, that mercy is like thrown out. Like, we don't care.
Exactly.
It's like, it's better than I sort of combative nature and this odd attitude. And even I call myself, like, the way I speak in my speech, and it's okay, and that's you, but like, it's not everyone. And I think it's okay, it's not everyone, because that's creation, that's how God wanted it. And we should be able to open our hearts to that as well. And one last question I had, you were
Yeah.
mentioning that to go and praying out on Friday nights, does that mean you guys have a 365-day campaign at your locations,
Maybe,
or?
maybe I should clarify that.
Yes.
When I would say Friday night, I would mean
Lent.
we usually go pray on Saturdays, right? So
Okay.
Friday night is when we would coordinate to go pray on Saturday. So we wouldn't pray Friday nights. We don't do that. But I just to clarify, like, my particular campaign is 365 days of the year. We're supposed to be out there 365 days of the year, because 40 Days for Life is successful and it's amazing primarily through its two campaigns during Lent, which is in the spring, and during the fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what about the other 290 days, 95 days, right? And that's something that we realize that, like, it's an ongoing effort, right? And to be fair, like, it's a different kind of challenge, right? Because I mean, you have to find a way to get people out there, right? But sometimes we realize, like, if for some reason somebody can't go like an hour every week outside of the 40 days campaigns, well, come 1 hour a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come 1 hour a month. And if you find a lot of people that can come 1 hour a month, gradually you can fill up your schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get you, like, it's still a challenge, right? I'll have to be honest with you in that. But that's where perseverance comes in, right?
Yeah.
Because again, like, it is like, to those listening, right? Pray for those, I humbly ask for your prayers for our team here in Dallas, Fort Worth. Pray for Anna. Pray for everybody who leads a 40 Days for Life campaign, because it is hard. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. It is very
You can't
hard to.
sugarcoat it.
You cannot sugarcoat it in any way. And realistically, it's not like you're seeing babies saved all the time, right? It is, but like, the impact of being out there is huge, huge, huge. Simply put, the fact that the facility knows that you're out there, like, I mean, like, it's already winning, right? Like we said, it's a business,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's multiple dimensions to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the spiritual aspect, like I mentioned, that's the primary one, right? But there's also the earthly aspect, right? That at the end of the day, the abortion industry is a business, right? It's an industry, right? And I remember hearing a while back, at least this was maybe here in the United States, or I don't know if in Texas, right? When a new abortion facility opens, right? They have 3 years to prove that they're financially viable, right? So within those first 3 years, if you make their life very hard, legally, peacefully, and prayerfully, making that abundantly clear, because again,
No
that's
guns? I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
rule number. You might not want to say that, but rule number one: don't get arrested. Be law-abiding citizen, right? But essentially, it's like, for us, like, when we target a new, like, prayer campaigns during those first initial years of development, I mean, you're hurting their business, right? Women cancel their appointments. You know, like, women, if you're out there with pro-life resources, maybe they'll choose life. And again, like, not everybody that goes to these centers is there for an abortion, right? But again, you still don't want them to go to these places, right? Because at the end of the day, what they're supporting is ending the life of an innocent human being, dismembering a child, and chemically ending their lives, right? So it's like,
That's how they make their most.
exactly, right?
Most of their income, right?
Exactly,
Abortion,
right. Perhaps these other contraceptives, these other tests, they're just vehicles, financial vehicles, probably, to get you to that eventually, right? So, like I said, it's like, I mean, we're 365. It is a challenge sometimes finding people to come pray, right? But oh yeah, but that's why we need you who's listening and watching this. All I ask for, if you remember me for one thing, 1 hour, 1 hour a week. I guarantee you, like, God will not be all done in generosity. Like I firmly believe it, that if you give God that 1 hour a week, like, you do not know the impact that you're doing, right? And you're like, oh, the facility is closed. Why am I here on a day that it is closed? It's like, why? Because people walk and drive by these places too, right? I mean, and when people realize, oh, there's an abortion facility here,
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is incredibly happy. Even the people who are super pro-abortion, I don't think that anybody's incredibly happy to go say, "Oh, I went to oh, I went to an abortion facility. Oh, I support an abortion facility." Oh, no, there's an ick to it. Like, there's always an ick to it because it's like deep down, like, people know what's happening in these places, right? So, like, yeah, I mean, we're 365. We're trying our best to be out there every day. We have 10 Planned Parenthoods here, but again, you push forward. And again, it's all in God's hands, right? Because it's like it says, right? It's like if the Lord does not build the house, right, the laborers toil in vain, right?
Mm.
So really, I mean, this is God's work, not our work. We're just called to be faithful, right? We may not look at the success now. We may not look at the success in our lives, right? I think of, again, those people who worked towards the fall of Roe versus Wade for decades, who didn't get to see that, like, that promised land, right? But maybe for us that might be something similar. We won't get to see that abortion facility close. Maybe we'll move away. Maybe we will die. But the point is that, like, we will like, we can rest assured knowing that, like, we fulfilled what God had asked of us. And if God is just inviting you right now for 1 hour, 40daysforlife.com, put your postal code, like, find the nearest location to you, whether that be in Hamilton, whether that be in the USA, you know, that's all that I would ask you. 1 hour, you know?
Bam. Uh, there was lots of things that I want to say, but I'm totally like it's escaping me. Um,
I have a
like
question for you, Anna.
yes.
How has 40 Days for Life changed you?
Oh, so going on, adding to that, I remember what I wanted to say. We were doing Friday nights, like even off season, like off spring and fall season. And I totally that totally spiritual battle, right? I totally like. And today's Friday, and I'm like, I could have gone today, or maybe tomorrow, because tomorrow is first Saturday, Our Ladies' Day. So, hey, how has 40 Days for Life? I kind of like talked about it a little bit, but it's knowing that, well, specifically like logistically speaking, knowing that I can have at least 20, 30 minutes to pray a rosary instead of mindlessly scrolling on social media. And it has taught me to kind of use my time wisely for his kingdom versus doing things that don't really, yes, and maybe that's my own struggle, but self-care is important. Like, taking care of yourself is important, but I think it has taught me to not just focus on my own problems, but know that there is sometimes also a greater need out in the world, whether that's aiding to the poor, like physically poor on the streets, or spiritually poor, right? Being able to, yeah, if I meet somebody on the street and we have like a hi bye encounter, I'm probably gonna say God bless you, and then see if they also, say that to me, because I think that's such a beautiful and easy way to evangelize. Or yeah, the preborn, and even this sort of program, like having something for Canadians to kind of ignite that fire, because I know just from living here, it's very quiet. Even, but specifically this year at the March for Life, it was very beautiful to see so much youth that came. And I remember going to the March for Life in Canada when I was in high school, and then going back this year. Specifically, what was different is that sort of energy that when I had gone previous year wasn't there. Even though it's small, like it's nothing compared to the one in Washington, but the fact that there was a concert going on, there were people dancing, and I hadn't seen that since high school. And to see that sort of fire and unapologetically just this sort of atmosphere that I hadn't experienced, like I had only experienced in high school, and I'm like, wow, like it's there. And even like credits to CLC, Camping Life Coalition in Canada, because even their own social media is also being very active to this day, and it's been such a beautiful movement to see grow, versus me thinking, oh, Canadians, like, we suck, like, look at America and look what's going on there, and they have so much more bravery. But I think it's going back to that. Like, if we are here, specifically in this country, there's a reason why we were placed here. We cannot take that for granted, and be that push, even if you're the only person. because that's
I
gonna
think
ignite other people. And I think that's what I've seen in 40 Days for Life. And yeah, maybe even perseverance, like you said. Know that even the beginning, it was so hard. I didn't know the altercations specifically because it's like near a student campus. I don't know if we were gonna get security guards from the campus. I didn't know if we were gonna get kicked out of the sidewalk because that's sometimes just how Canadians work. Like so many things that could have gone wrong 4 or 5 years ago now have not. Like, yes, like what you're saying, people insult you, people make nasty remarks. That's gonna happen. Sanctification in person, you're being persecuted right there and then, but nothing compared to what has gone in the UK, right? I think in the UK people have gone to jail, they've been sent to jail. So it's very different, and it's remembering that it's not about me. Sometimes it's greater than me, and that helps me become a better person in general, in my job, with my family. So yeah, I think that would be my answer. Thank you for the question.
you know something came to mind, right? Something that I admire about the Canadian people from a distance, because technically, where I'm originally from, I'm on the other extreme
Yeah,
of like,
you're like south.
I mean, I'm like the as southernmost as you possibly can get in the United States, uh, to some degree. Uh, Something that I admire about Canadians is, and I know maybe it's stereotypical, but y'all are so nice, right? And but there's some beauty to that in the sense that your gentleness, right, and at times how sweet y'all are is really what we need in this culture for life, right? Like think about like how I said mercy earlier, right? Oftentimes women who are faced with an unexpected pregnancy, they're scared, they're alone, they're in financial crisis, they're freaking out, in all honesty, because it's like, what am I going to do? What if you're a 19-year-old student who finds out that she's pregnant? What's going to happen with my life and everything? It's like, and I think the beautiful thing about the gentleness of Canadians is like, there's a great opportunity there to be that outreach, right? To be that receptivity, to have that receptive heart for those who are vulnerable, right? Now, at the same time, and I would highly encourage you to tap into that, right? I mean, like, look into seeing how you can serve those moms in need, right? But at the same time, right? There's a need, a great need for in Canada to speak up in vocal ways, legal, peaceful ways, to be a very concrete voice, right? Yeah, I mean, you might run the risk of being censored, right? I think we've seen that in other causes in Canada, right? But quite frankly, like I know it's easy for me to say, but I mean, be not afraid. Like really, be not afraid to speak up. And the easiest way to really speak up at times is not always through social media. It's not always standing on your soapbox in the middle of the street and start saying how bad abortion is. There's a place for all those things. But the best way that I've learned to this day, it's not through social media, although that's useful. It's not through giving a lecture, although that's useful. It's day-to-day conversations. Day-to-day conversations about the issue keeps awareness alive, right? To this day at work, sometimes something will come up and you find a way to bring that into the conversation, right? Sometimes like sometimes you'll see something on social media. A friend also saw it. Hey, what do you think about this, right? You know, like there's those kinds of things where like really those are two ways that I would highly encourage my Canadian brothers and sisters to look into. It's like you have a very unique compassion that and gentleness and niceness, quite frankly, that is very much needed to serve those vulnerable moms in need and those babies. But at the same time, there's this opportunity for you in that gentleness of dialogue to speak to one another and to especially those that disagree in a gentle way about abortion. It's like, hey, what do you think about this? Never imposing your worldview, but always proposing. Have you ever thought about this? Right? Do you believe in human rights? Right? Well, don't you think that human rights began when human life begins, right? Like the point is like getting the wheels running in people's hearts and minds. And again, never trying to win a debate, but just planting the seed, you know? Uh it's and those two things is what I would say.
Just planting the seed. One last thing that I remember I wanted to say was that, yes, this is hard. I think we said that, leading the sort of campaigns, volunteering is hard. But I think even in our day-to-day lives, like let's say you want to get to bed earlier. You choose your heart. You're like, okay, to get to bed earlier, either I do this or I do that. So it's like choosing what I want to include in my life that's hard. Having those day-to-day conversations, this is my hard, or choosing to come and pray, that's going to be my hard, versus what's the other hard, knowing in my mind that I'm negating, somebody has asked me about this beautiful mission, but I'm negating it because I'm telling them I have no time. And it's like, am I lying to them? Am I actually being truthful about my time? Or is it just because willfully I just don't want to? Am I discerning it? Am I adding God to it? Or I'm just doing my own will? So with that, thank you so much, Ricardo. It has been a pleasure. It has been, for me, kind of like that stamp of that reignition for myself here in Hamilton to maybe potentially go and pray tomorrow, and just like keep that perspective alive, and to know that not all is lost, and we are able to build his kingdom in the now, right here, right now. Thank you so much.
No, thanks be to God. And as one of my favorite priests that lives in Canada say, Viva Cristo Rey.
Viva Cristo Rey. Have a good day, guys. Have a good night.
God bless
whoever
y'all.
it is. God bless. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the program Via Rua, hosted by Anna Rivera here on Radio Maria Canada, a Catholic voice wherever you are.